Two teams shunned. Welcome to Normal, Illinois in the 2008 MasterCard National Invitational Tournament. We're inside the Redbird Arena for second round action as the number 3 seed Dayton Flyers take on the number 2 seed Illinois State Redbirds. Also tonight at second round play in the Ohio State bracket, the Buckeyes are home in Columbus, and Ohio State win will keep the Buckeyes home for the quarterfinals. But if OSU struggles against California, the winner of our game will be home for the quarterfinals. Greetings, Jim Barber, Mark Adams, and Sarah Kustak will be along shortly in this building. Illinois State this year almost perfect at 16-1. What's interesting, though, is most teams have trouble scoring the ball against them. That's why they're so good here.
Well, no question. Illinois State is at home tonight. They've got something to prove. But so do the Dayton Flyers. And both these teams, while they got snubbed in practice, you'd never know it, Jim. These two teams are ready to go tonight.
Big challenge tonight for Dayton is scoring the ball. That's in the hands of senior guard Brian Roberts.
Well, Brian Roberts, a guy who can really load up, a finalist for the Cousy Award, and well-deserved. But I think for the Dayton Flyers to be successful tonight, they got to go down to the big workhorse down low, and that's Kurt Hilsman. He can score it every time he gets a touch. Advantage, Dayton Flyers.
Both Roberts and Hilsman did most of their damage last week against Cleveland State in the first half. Let's talk about offense. Illinois State and number 0. It was very impressive in their win against Utah State.
Boy, I love this kid because he's simply fearless. Offensively, defensively, he's the best athlete on the court for Illinois State. And down low, Dinma Odiokosa, a guy that's learning his skills well. He's a sponge as a basketball player. The coaches have coached him up. Dinma Odiokosa, look for him to contribute in the paint.
Good numbers for both, including Osiris's 14 points and 5 rebounds. It's a near sellout crowd tonight, and it will rock. Great fans here in the Bloomington Normal area, and they are inspired by the play of their team in postseason tournament play. Stark Adams and Jim Barber, courtside seats. In our Star Watch tonight, two guys who look to score first and pass second.
Well, Brian Roberts is just explosive offensively. And Osiris Eldridge, a guy extremely athletic, can manufacture points in 94-foot situation. He's improved as a jump shooter as well. That's the reason why he's first team All-Missouri Valley Conference.
Marcus, take a look at the Dayton starting lineup. Good offensive support from Marcus Johnson, who can back up Roberts. He averages 10 points a game. And for Illinois State, a number of guys who can score the ball, but more importantly, it's the leadership factor. Boo Richardson brings that and other things. We'll get into his story as we progress tonight. Much at stake tonight. Quarterfinals just around the corner with the winner to meet either California or Ohio State. And it's Richardson and Illinois State with a chance to draw first blood. Both of these teams love to play man-to-man defense. Dom Johnson and Eldridge with the foul. A third opportunity. There's Big Hilsman to get the first defensive board.
Well, Dayton plus almost 5 rebounds per game on the season. A great rebounding team. We'll see if Illinois State can kind of penetrate those gaps, get some offensive rebound work. They did on the first possession.
Andre Sandoval wears 3 handling it. He and Roberts and the third guard Johnson make up the backcourt combination. Hilsman off the pass, threw it away.
Illinois State just so stingy defensively. They've been dominating here at Redbird Arena.
Eldridge for 3. He drained that from deep. So Osiris off quickly in a 3-0 start for Illinois State. In this building, 11-0, holding teams under 60 points. And again, 16-1 for the year. The Flyers with many years ago, great NIT championships back when the NIT held as much prestige as the NCAA, and maybe more in some instances.
Well, certainly back in the 50s and 60s, the NIT, and in the 40s as well, the NIT was the tournament to go to. Of course, not the case today, but still, when you look at the quality of RPI teams, these are the 2 best RPI teams not accepted by the NCAA selection committee playing here at Illinois State.
Marcus Johnson, maybe the all-time second best at his high school, behind LeBron James. He can score off the dribble, and he did there moments ago. Here's Osiris Eldridge on a slice to the basket. He'll be called for an offensive foul. Well, Brian Gregory wanted his team into the NCAA tournament. That's no secret by now. He's got 97 wins as coach at UD in 5 years, but he's got a great-looking stock for years to come, and injuries really put the bug on them and kept them from being in the big dance.
Well, no question, getting Chris Wright here, right? Really considered one of the better freshmen in the country coming to this University of Dayton program, has been injured throughout the second half of the season. Before his injury, they're a top 15 basketball team.
Hoping to see him tonight. He was cleared 10 days ago to play, and Sarah will be updating his situation as we move along. Tim Jankovic, well, same as Brian Gregory. They had hoped to be in the NCAA tournament. He was very vocal about the fact they weren't, but he also told his players, as he alluded to us earlier today, when it appeared as if we would not get in with an early tournament loss postseason, I started talking NIT in a very positive way.
Now, the interesting about Tim Jankovic is that he's been an assistant to Bill Self, Kevin Stallings, Eddie Sutton, Gene Iba, Boyd Grant, and Jack Hartman. Boyd Grant and Jack Hartman, two of the great defensive coaches ever in the history of the NCAA. And Tim Jankovic has been on both those staffs.
That's quite a coaching resume, isn't it?
Well, that's why Illinois State defends so well. He has learned his lessons to be a head coach extremely well.
And he's been in touch with Bill Self as Kansas has been rolling on in the NCAA tournament so far. Three ball on the way, this time rimming in and out. And a rebound taken down by Binney of visiting Dayton. Turnover in transition. This is where Illinois State can be very good. And instead they'll set it up with the leader, Boo Richardson, who officially is listed as 5'8", but as he went head-to-head with you today, I'm not so sure.
I can't post up many guys at the Division I level, but I think I can post Boo up. Not score on him, but I can post him up.
And I think he took that in good nature. Here's Boo with a basketball and a fresh 35 as he slices on the baseline and hands it off. And the layup is good. Kosa cutting to the hoop.
The quickness for Illinois State is dominating early. Boo Richardson getting into gaps. And of course, Osiris Eldridge also very athletic.
And you better find Brian Roberts, who has great range from the outside and can score off the dribble as well.
I'm surprised he got that good of a look against this Illinois State defense.
It was a good look. 7-5 UD, more than 3 minutes into our first half. Down to Slack, personal foul called. And Sarah Kustak's going to update us on Chris Wright and his situation.
Thanks, guys. Well, as you had discussed, it's amazing how one game could change the complexion of a season. On January 9th, Chris Wright for Dayton breaks his ankle. Previous to that injury, Dayton had went 13-1. After that injury, Dayton had been 9-9, but we got a chance to talk to Coach Gregory about Chris Wright, and he said, I know he is chomping at the bit to get in this game. He was cleared last week, and on Saturday, he went full go. We can expect to see from Chris tonight.
I was going to say, if all three of us were placing bets, we'd be on one side, were we not?
No question. In fact, we talked about it in the shoot-around. Tell you what, I'd have Chris Wright start. That's how good he is. He's healthy. He's starting.
Well, as coach says, at most, he might see 15 minutes tonight, but he grinned when you pointed out to him he's certainly better on the floor than on the bench, and I know he would agree.
I know one thing. I was a lot smarter when my best players were always playing. And so is Brian Gregory.
Yeah. Here comes Richardson up for Illinois State. Trailing in our game 7-5. We're approaching the 16-minute dead ball television timeout. And that's going to be an offensive foul called on Illinois State on a clear out by Slack.
You just get the feel in this game. It's going to come down to possession by possession. And you just feel like both these teams, we saw them in practice, Jim, and both very familiar with both ball clubs. They're so evenly matched physically. It just appears to be a game that's going to go right down to a last-second shot.
These teams are capable of scoring in open court, but half-court defense is going to probably put this down to a game of possessions. Here's Warren penetrating, rolled it up and missed it. And on the crash to the boards, a rebound taken down by Illinois State. They'll drop it down low to Slack. One step, missed the layup. Rebound Marcus Johnson of Dayton. And here's Johnson on the catch. That's another bad pass picked off by Richardson this time, who will shoot off the dribble and score.
That is the one X factor right there. Illinois State causing turnovers early in this basketball game. If they are to get separation, it will come from their half-court defense, that activity with Lou Richardson and company.
And Dayton's got to be very careful with the ball. Unforced errors could kill them in this building tonight. Here's Brian Roberts, who had it 3 moments ago. Got held up defensively and thrown away. 5 minutes in, plenty of intensity in the house, and why not? Big time NIT game. Very difficult to stop at this place, particularly when they're overmatched against some opponents.
You know, Jim, I picked Illinois State as 8th in the 9-member Missouri Valley Conference in preseason, and I picked Drake for 9th. Those two teams end up 1 and 2, respectively. Shows you what I know in the preseason, along with everybody else.
And what a tough way for Drake to go out in the NCAA tournament. People are still buzzing about that here when they lost probably, arguably, one of the greatest games ever in NCAA history to Western Kentucky.
No question, what a great finish to that overtime. Western Kentucky got the victory over Drake, who I think that was the story of college basketball this year.
Yeah, I agree. Charles Little on the hop to the basket. The 8,000 or so officials in the stands thought it was a charge, but instead a blocking foul is called, and that'll mean free throws as a result.
And if the defender, Levi Dyer, stays straight up, then that is a charge. But he rotated his upper body, almost shying away from contact. That's the reason for the call. The block was a good call by the official.
Little not a good free throw shooter, 44% for the season. Eldridge out of the game for first rest, and Little's second free throw is too long. Empty on this possession. We stand at 7-7. Let's talk about what's Illinois State been able to do here with 14 straight wins, particularly non-conference play. And again, it all starts and ends with defense. Rebound to Brian Roberts.
Now, what I'm so impressed with is Illinois State's transition defense. You just don't get much easy.
Warren on a great pass inside to Little, who has an outstanding vertical leap, and the lead regained by Dayton.
When London Warren just makes things happen. When he has the ball in his hands, you know he's going to fly to the basket somehow, some way. Beautiful assist there for the big fella, Charles Little, down low.
Here's Dom Johnson with a pick out high. And now Richardson penetrating against much taller people, lost the ball, and on the floor we're going to have a held ball situation, and the arrow sends us back the other way.
And Brian Gregory loves the energy that London Warren brings to the game, and here are Brian Gregory's keys. I first get his best player involved, dominate the glass, almost +5 rebounds per game for the Dayton Flyers, and get the big guy Hillsman getting touches down low along with Charles Little. Those two guys can score around the basket.
A low-scoring game, and that figures to be throughout. Two teams that value defense very much. And both have learned from outstanding and major Division I mentors like Tom Enzo and Bill Self. There's a pick from Hillsman.
And we're talking about two of the next generation of coaches here with Brian Gregory and Tom Jankovic.
Hillsman on the drop-off, beats the shot clock with 4 remaining, and the easy basket for Dayton, their largest lead early. Let's talk about what's important for Illinois State.
Well, whenever you play the Dayton Flyers, you got to blanket Brian Roberts. I think this ball comes best when they attack mode, drive it to the rack, and we'll see how athletic Illinois State can get through those block-offs of the Dayton Flyers and get to the offensive glass. That's critical for their offensive production.
First possession tonight, they had a couple of cracks at the offensive boards, unable to score, and on the kick-out, blocking foul called on Warren. Brian Roberts in Atlantic 10 conference play is terrific. Points per game at 18.5, and he shoots from the 3 as well as anybody.
44.9% from behind the arc, 48 overall. You know, that doesn't include all the time that he also plays point guard, off guard. I mean, he's got to switch hats with this basketball team. He also makes his teammates better. He really is a very, very special talent for the Dayton Flyers, Brian Roberts.
And he is a senior, putting in his last licks for his team. Here's Warren on the shake to the basket and missed it. All the way down and came back out.
Well, whenever you don't take it off the glass, you're sort of throwing it up there with a 50-50 chance. London Warren would have been better off taking that ball off the glass.
Both teams setting a bunch of players in so far to get their feet wet in tonight's game. Great pass inside, and that happens by way of Johnson with that bullet looking close.
Now both teams exposing each other down low right now. Good motion on the perimeter has caused some mismatches and switches. Both teams getting good looks down low.
Brandon Sampe with that basket, cutting the lead to 11-9. Neither team getting to the free throw line very much so far. And here's Hillsman playing with it back to the basket. Sandoval, tough three over Johnson. He's way off the mark, and we will have a timeout. 11-11 for the first half. 11-9 our score. Defense at the top of the list for both the.
Dan Sadler and George Janke came off the bench with that ball club. The Dayton Flyers were the most dominant basketball team in the 50s and 60s. They were the UCLA of their time.
Runners up 5 times in the 1950s, and it's interesting, not on that resume, but a game no one in Dayton will forget, chasing the UCLA Bruins and their dominance one year to triple overtime in the NCAA tournament in a game that may be arguably the best game, minus perhaps the NC State Houston finish in college basketball history.
Well, the Dayton Flyers have a tremendous history, and they're very fortunate to have a guy like Brian Gregory who understands that history and embraces it. I'll bet you $1 million Don May is watching this game tonight, and Brian Gregory is one of the big reasons for it. He welcomes everyone back to the great Dayton Flyer program.
And Gregory is signed through the 2012 season. He'll be with Dayton for a long time. Contact on the wing spotted on Dayton. ESPNU's coverage of college basketball's postseason continues right after our game tonight. Nebraska against Ole Miss, second round NIT, the MasterCard National Invitational Tournament. For more information, log on to ESPNU.com.
Alex Marich, of course, big guy that can shoot it, can bang it down low, and what a job Andy Kennedy did with Ole Miss this year.
Got off to that perfect start. And then as it got to the SEC playoff, it was arguably a little tougher for them as expected, but they were on the bubble for a period of time before receiving a berth from the NIT.
You know, with Chris Wright in the game, you got to think that he's really going to attack the offensive glass. There he goes right there.
And Roberts with his second made three of the night, and he is getting some good looks from the perimeter.
He really is. I'm very surprised, knowing the scouting report, the preparation of Tim Jankovic in Illinois State, that they're not just jamming him hard on the perimeter, making him put the ball on the floor.
Speaking of, Brian, let's go to Sarah Kustok for an update on that.
Well, you guys are talking about the history of Dayton's winning program, and including that NIT championship in 1962. And Brian Roberts said, we understand that they celebrate the teams that make the NCAA or make the NIT. He said, my focus has been on winning. I'm not interested in numbers. I want to be part of a great team that will be celebrated.
And he is a terrific kid, Sarah, not only on the court, but academically as well. And he's also a Bob Cousy and John Wooden finalist. Odiokosa scores, and another block on the other end, this time called on Illinois State. And on Eldridge, who struggled to shoot the ball against Utah State, 1 of 8 threes, and has struggled so far tonight at 1 of 3 threes in attempts and 1 of 5 for the game. And unfortunately for him, he's also picked up his second personal foul.
Well, and that's going to hurt Illinois State. He's just such a dynamic talent. And he truly is fearless, both defensively, offensively. He plays that South Chicago type of attitude.
We'll have to rest for a while. Let's see how Roberts attempts to take advantage of that against the much smaller Boo Richardson. 15 to shoot. Roberts gets loose, and a medium range jumper missed it. A rebound taken down by Big Anthony Slack. Three-guard lineup, dropped down low, nicely done, Illinois State. Dima Odiokosa, the sophomore out of Nigeria. That was good ball movement, by the way. Now a steal. And Slack jams it. And Dayton's been very careless with the basketball tonight.
And Illinois State, Boo Richardson, the smallest man on the court, making things happen defensively for these Redbirds.
For the game, already 5 Flyer turnovers, and they've been resulting in points. This is a team that does take advantage of mistakes.
Boo Richardson matched up with Brian Roberts right there.
Evan Searcy in the game, fine-looking player, wears 34. Binney faking, throwing it up and scoring. That's Jimmy Binney with a basket. Count the basket, and we have a foul as well called.
Work him up in the post, absolutely. Right here, we get a good look at Diener Odiokosa working him up in the post. He just works up high, works up high, works up high, pins the defender. Look at all the space he has to catch the basketball because he continues to work the post high, 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 and then can go low. Diener Odiokosa.
Our score now 16-15 in favor of Dayton. As we get down to 8 minutes for the first half. Illinois State yet to get to the free throw line. Dayton has attempted 4, made 2. Odiokosa trying to set a high pick, fails to do so, and Dom Johnson now in trouble. 8 to shoot. Holloway with a pick from Slack. On the hop to the basket, rolls it in.
A complete defensive breakdown for the Dayton Flyers right there. Boy, when you give Illinois State an avenue, a guy like Holloway, Emmanuel Holloway, going to take it to the rack.
There's Hillsman, highlighted earlier tonight in our broadcast, but he misses strong. And another rebound for Illinois State. It's 1 and out for Dayton.
Now, Illinois State is just so much better when they score off the bounce.
Odiokosa, you can't let him catch that ball so close. And with that, Brian Gregory calls a timeout. His team got off to a wonderful start and then had trouble hanging on to the basketball.
Diener Odiokosa is making such a big difference slipping to the basket. We got a wild one here in Normal, Illinois.
Jim Barber, Mark Adams, Sarah Kustok. Good to have you with us tonight for the MasterCard NIT second round from Normal, Illinois. This is a 10-2 run by Illinois State over the last 4 minutes. And Anthony Slack, a guy his coach calls him active and bouncy, has 6 of those 10 points.
Well, no question, he's been active and bouncy, but how about Diener Odiokosa as well? He and Slack together have been dynamite down low for Illinois State. Odiokosa, one of those guys that is just learning the game, but he's been like a sponge. He's taken it all in, and now late in the season, he's been a major factor for Illinois State, a double-figure score in the victory over Utah State.
You saw Slack's numbers. He played with Boo Richardson at Coffeyville Community College. We have seen more than our share of blocking fouls called tonight. Television timeout, 7:05 remaining in the first half. 2008 MasterCard NIT second round inside Redbird Arena on the campus of ISU. Illinois State 19, Dayton 16, 7 minutes and change for the first half. Tim Jankovic, first-year coach at Illinois State, having a terrific year. For more on that, here's Sarah.
Well, he is having a terrific year. First 20-win season in 7 years. They tied the school record for most wins in a season with 25. But I spoke with him about when he first took the job, and he said, you know what? I'm getting ready to walk into my first meeting with the kids. They'd been struggling for years, and I expected to have to say, hey, sit up straight, look me in the eyes. He said, I walk in. They are at full attention, giving me all the respect in the world. He said, at that moment, I knew I was going to have a great team ahead of me.
And to follow that point, Sarah, Boo Richardson told us today at practice the fact that he's from Kansas and coached those years under Bill Self, that was almost instant respect.
And also just the positive attitude that he brought to this program. It's very interesting to talk to Boo about his relationship with his head coach and how well it's worked here at Illinois State.
Little rolls that went in for the Flyers. In a 19-18 game, Dayton down by 1. Richardson said he was also impressed because the coach told him if you don't play defense, you're not playing.
Yeah, and he has held true to his word on that one.
All taken away on one of the rare Illinois State turnovers of the game. And here comes Roberts, who already has a couple of made threes. Ryan Roberts, top 10 in a number of categories in the A-10, as we showed you earlier, finishing out a terrific career at Dayton. The question is, will it finish tonight? Or we'll move on to Columbus, back home, and perhaps New York City.
got over and back. It was a shot that was deflected back into the backcourt, although the Illinois State fans would have liked to have had that call.
Roberts with a high pick from Hillsman, working off the wing, throwing it off the board, and missing it. Holloway goes down, trying to keep the ball in play, and it's out of bounds to Dayton as you take a look at Charles Little. Nothing little about his game. This kid can leap.
A 43-inch vertical jump.
And we may see it tonight.
That's not a jump. That's a rocket booster. And how long does your Achilles tendon have to be to have a 43-inch vertical jump?
I don't know.
3 feet? I mean, jeez, oh, feet.
He and Charles Wright are a couple of top-flight contenders on this team. London Warren out front, trying to beat his man off the dribble. The handoff is a Sandoval. Shoots a wild three, and a good cleanup by Warren, but he missed the follow-up. Look on quickly, Richardson attacks to the goal. And before he can roll it up and in, he is fouled on the floor.
Well, what a tough kid, Boo Richardson. Watch him accelerate down the floor. He's even with London Warren, who's not slow, by the way, and blows by him. 2-foot jump stop right to the basket. Boo Richardson.
A kid who has lost a number of people in his family and close associates and friends to tragedies, which he told us today it has made him stronger. His coach and his family here at Illinois State emphasizing the positive. He said things are working out so well for him, and he's growing up so nicely that he's learning how to pay his bills on time.
You almost felt like that Normal, Illinois was an oasis for this kid, and his stepbrother, Brandon Franklin, who passed away, was actually murdered. But yet, he wanted Boo to stay away. And he followed that advice. Boo stays here a lot.
Searcy with a block, and back comes Dayton. Trailing in this game by 1, under 5 minutes for the first half in a defensive showdown. There's Roberts shooting for another long-range jumper, missing that one at Sandoval over the bar. Let's continue the subject of Boo Richardson and his story, and here once again, Sarah Kustok.
Well, guys, when we talked to him today after practice, it blew me away when he said, Coach Jankovic changed my life. He said his attitude, his insistence on optimism. When he first came here, he said, I may have been headed down the wrong road. He said, but he maintained that we must smile every day. We've got to be positive, and he didn't allow for us to get down on ourselves. He said, you know what, he treats everyone exactly the same, and I've learned to do that as well.
It's a good story. And this kid is set to graduate in several months ahead. He'd like to continue to play basketball overseas, but if that stops, he probably is going to do okay in a profession or two.
He's talking about getting into coaching, and he'd be a great coach right away. He understands the game. His work ethic is tremendous. When you talk about coaches like Tim Jankovic, of course, in Division I basketball, yes, there is a lot of money in it today. There are a lot of reasons why guys coach college basketball, but Tim Jankovic is a guy who invests time in his players. Boo Richardson is a positive recipient of the mentorship of Tim Jankovic.
Well said. First free throw is good by Slack. First attempt of the night for Illinois State at the line. Catch the 7th annual McDonald's Girls High School All-American game on ESPNU Wednesday night. Top high school basketball players in the country showcase the skills they'll be using in the college ranks. It's the McDonald's Girls High School All-American game on ESPNU Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com. And we are sure to see a number of those stars on the collegiate levels on the family networks as early as next year.
A lot of impact players in that game.
And it makes it easy for them to come to the D1 ranks and fit in quickly and perform so well because they've been on the big stage quite early in their life. Ball saved out to Benny, and Dayton controls, trailing by 3.
Well, without Brian Roberts in the lineup, you can see that Dayton really struggles to score the ball.
Benny can shoot the outside jumper, and he buries that one. He's got a good-looking stroke.
Now, that's exactly the type of leadership that Brian Gregory expects from Jimmy Benny. Now, you've got to give Brian Roberts a rest at some point, and then you need senior leadership. Jimmy Benny providing it right there.
I want Benny and Warren, who's called the Jacksonville Jet, to combine tonight so we can say Benny and the Jet. I only worked on that for a few minutes tonight, so...
I can tell you stayed up on that.
No harm to the telecast, I hope. Here's Richardson shooting a three in transition.
Boy, Brew Richardson just looked right at us, letting us know that he is here to play a great game tonight. That is one tough kid. Tim Jankovich called him the best leader he's ever coached. It's hard to argue.
Brew now with 5 points in the game. Hillsman's been quiet so far, and that shot is blocked. Now Richardson on the break, behind the back to Holloway, and unfortunately led him a little too far out of bounds. Chris Wright, a big story for Dayton and a big addition back in the lineup. We'll get to his story when we return, but right now it's Illinois State by 3. You may ask, well, he didn't play much in A-10 activity because of a broken foot, and yet made the A-10, the Atlantic 10 all-rookie team.
He only played 8 minutes in conference play. That's how good Chris Wright is to make the all-freshman team in the A-10.
And he is back. Missing 18 games due to a fractured ankle. And without him, it's been a challenge this year, as you might imagine. In fact, if Wright was healthy, this team is in the NCAA tournament. They're not even here tonight.
This team defeated Louisville and Rick Pitino on the road. They hammered Pitt by 30, and some people say, well, Levance Fields was injured. No, he wasn't. When they were down by 25 points is when Levance Fields got hurt in the second half. This University of Dayton team, with Chris Wright, is a top 25 team with the Xavier Musketeers in the A-10, playing it out for the championship. Otherwise, they become 9-9 without Chris Wright. That's not coaching, that's talent that's lost.
Sure, and what did Pitt coach Jamie Dixon say after that game? This is as talented a group, speaking of Dayton, as anyone we face in the country, and that includes the great Big East Conference.
And they just got done beating Duke on a last-second shot by Levance Fields.
Three-point game with 2:20 left, intended for Slack. Got it inside, got fouled. Let's follow up the Chris Wright story and his recruitment. Once again, Sarah Kustak.
Well, some college coaches like to sweet talk their recruits, but not Brian Gregory. Chris Wright said that when he first met him, the very first thing that he ever told him, you're not that good. He said, but Coach Gregory said, you're not that good, but if you work at it, you can become the player you want to be. And once he committed to Dayton, Coach Gregory gave him a piece of paper and said everything that he needed to work on. Chris said, I put it on my door at home. I looked at it every single day, and it really helped me because I never had anyone tell me what to work on. And Coach Gregory says you can never underestimate how important it is to have a kid that wants to spend time to get better, and that's what Chris is.
Well, sir, it seems to be that way with the ones who are potentially the great ones in college basketball. You know which way to motivate them, and they will do above and beyond what is expected. Looks like Chris Wright is going to be exactly like that.
Well, you also can never underestimate the value of honesty. And there is an honest man who told a young man,
rarity in this business.
Absolutely, who told the young man exactly what he thought. Not what he thought the kid wanted to hear, but told him what he needed to hear. And Chris Wright came to Dayton.
Anthony Slack, the only Illinois State player at the line tonight, is 2 of 5. Illinois State without Osiris Eldridge, who has 2 personal fouls. Leading this game 24-21. Benny, this time a mid-range jumper, and he's got the touch going tonight. He made 3 and a 2, and the game is down to 1.
Well, Jimmy Benny showing some true senior leadership. It's amazing how seniors start to understand this could be my last game, and they come out firing and ready to play. Jimmy Benny.
Holloway with a follow-up, missed it. Bodies collide. We'll have a foul coming up on Illinois State. We're talking about the best players in the country, and I'm not surprised that Chris Wright is on the mark group.
This was preseason. As I looked at the best freshmen in the country, Derrick Rose, Eric Gordon, Michael Beasley, Kevin Love, O.J. Mayo, and I felt Chris Wright would make the biggest impact. And you know what? I'm not right very often, but in this one, I think it was.
Yeah.
13-1 with him, 9-9 without him. Where would Michael Beasley and Kansas State, where would they be without Michael Beasley?
Yeah.
Not in the NCAA tournament.
Hey, I'm interested, and I think a lot of people watching on the U tonight are as well, and that 6 on the board. Which ones will be around to play next year?
I think Chris Wright will be back. I think that O.J. Mayo will be back.
Really?
The other 4, I don't think they'll be back. I think Derrick Rose will go to the NBA. I think Michael Beasley has to. I mean, he'll
be the number 1 pick, right?
He's the number 1 pick, and I know Tyler Hansbrough was named Player of the Year by a lot of folks, but in my book, in the On the Mark list, Michael Beasley is Player of the Year in college basketball, hands down. He's had an historic season, averaging a double-double. He's had better numbers than almost every guy of a different era. Adrian Dantley, Julius Erving had similar numbers. Michael Jordan, of course, the old joke is Dean Smith was the only guy who could hold him under 20.
Our colleague Bob Wenzel had a game with him earlier this year. He speaks very highly of Beasley. He says he is so special and so gifted.
We saw him early, and we saw that Xavier defense just smother him on New Year's Eve. They were the only team to successfully defend him all year long.
Sape's basket gives Illinois State a 1-point lead. 11 field goals made tonight for the Redbirds. And a wonderful steal by Illinois State in transition to the basket, Boo Richardson. And that's converting defense into offense.
Well, it's been all about turnovers and turning the turnovers into points for Illinois State.
And that'll rock the house. 14-4 advantage off of turnovers tonight, favoring Illinois State.
The amazing thing, Dayton's only down 3.
Roberts controlling out front. 7 to shoot. Now 4. Does Roberts recognize it? He does. Off the dribble. Knocked down to 3. Cold-blooded 3 by Brian Roberts at the end of the first half to tie this game at 28. As good as advertised tonight. Dayton and Illinois State deadlocked at halftime. We'll come back to Redbird Arena to start our halftime show here on the U from Illinois State. Welcome back to the 2008 MasterCard NIT second round inside Redbird Arena. Got a good one tonight. Even up at halftime. Dayton 28, Illinois State 28. Despite the fact that Dayton has given up 14 points in turnovers, the Flyers are dead even at the break. That's surprising.
Oh, no question, but Brian Roberts has kept this basketball team in. Certainly they've turned the ball over quite a bit, but Illinois State is switching off defensively, which is allowing Brian Roberts to get some pretty good looks. 9 points in the first half when we saw him drain a 3 here at the end of the half.
All eyes on the Ohio State-California game tonight. Second round NIT. The Buckeyes lead at halftime. 35-23 if Ohio State wins. The Bucks will be home for round 3 against the winner of our game tonight. It's been a very competitive tournament so far, and the Florida Gators, last year's NCAA champions, the year before NCAA champions, are back to form, it seems, right now in the NIT.
Another matchup that I'm looking forward to is UMass will return to Syracuse. Of course, UMass knocked off Syracuse earlier this season, which was a huge victory for UMass. Now they will get a return trip back to Syracuse in the NIT.
And Mike Davis's team from UAB doing very nicely in this tournament so well, taking on the top seed of Virginia Tech.
No question, Robert Vaden, a guy that can really play, and Mike Davis, of course, has a lot to prove at UAB. He's proving it quite well. Of course, against Virginia Tech, Seth Greenberg said anybody was crazy that didn't let his team into the NCAA tournament. Well, I guess the craziness is headed to the NIT.
Yeah. Nebraska and Ole Miss follows this game at roughly 9 o'clock tonight.
And right now, the Dayton Flyers have to take better care of the basketball. And for Illinois State, it's generating points off those turnovers.
Osiris Eldridge in this game for Illinois State, just 3 points and 2 personal fouls. Brian Roberts got hot early. That continued throughout the first half.
Well, B-Rob has been good. This guy's been loaded up. How about Jimmy Binney and his leadership here in the first half as a senior? And the Dayton Flyers needed a 3 to get it going. They did at the end of the half, 28-28. For Illinois State, Boo Richardson has haunted the Dayton offense. Here with the steal and a little medium-range jump shot. Boo. Boo again gets the steal off to Anthony Slack for the rim rattler. And here we go with Emmanuel Holloway with the steal. Guess who? Boo! Haunts the Dayton Flyers again.
Boo averages 6 a game. He has 7 so far. 3-point shooting favoring Dayton. Very efficient in their arc shooting. The points off turnovers, as Mark alluded to, dominating this game by Illinois State. And the points to the paint ditto that. And again, that has a lot to do with Dayton's mistakes. We're looking at what the coaches had to say in the first half. Here again is Sarah.
Yeah, got a chance to catch up with both coaches. And first for Illinois State, Tim Jankovich said, I told my team this is exactly what we expected. It's a war out there. It's a dogfight. It's going to come down to who the first team will be to crack. But he said he's very excited about his defense. They've done what they've wanted him to, pressure the ball. And for Dayton's Brian Gregory, he said his team simply just has to be stronger with the ball, protect it. And he said the one point he wanted to emphasize was handling those ball screens. It's not just the two guys on the ball, it's the rest of the three players that need to rotate.
All right, Sarah, and Jankovich's team for the year holding opponents under 60 points, 18-0. Right now they're on that clip against Gregory's Dayton Flyers as we start the second half. Illinois State home white and operating with Boo Richardson. Dom Johnson threw it away, an unforced error, a rare one tonight for Illinois State. As Dom Johnson, one of those players his coach says he can absolutely not take off the floor. Let's redate and re-up our Star Watch update. Favorite one, Brian Roberts with his made threes.
Well, let's remember that Osiris Eldridge got 2 fouls early on in this game. He sat for the large majority of the first half. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. Osiris Eldridge, number 0 for Illinois State.
Hillsman backs his man off the dribble and fails to score. He has been held with 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting. Boo Richardson operating against Brian Roberts. Side advantage Roberts. Odiokosa out to set a pick and gets it back and scores off a great look from Eldridge.
Perfectly executed pick and pop. Osiris Eldridge, you got to come get him. And right there, I thought that was a great job of popping by Dima Odiokosa.
Good 2-man game implemented by Illinois State. And the first points of the second half go to the Birds. Hillsman very quiet this evening.
He's definitely got to be a guy that the Dayton Flyers look to in the post. Even when he doesn't score, he still makes them better by making the defense go inside and out.
Benny on the baseline ran into trouble. Sandoval, can he save it? He did. But because the shot clock was expiring, no opportunity for Dayton. And let's take Mark Adams an opportunity to go inside the play.
Osiris Eldridge will accept the screen. Watch for Dima Odiokosa to pop. Here comes the screen. Now watch Okosa, number 42. He pops to the corner. Doesn't go to the basket. He pops to the open area. That's the pick and pop executed perfectly by Illinois State.
30-28 Redbirds. 2 minutes into the second half. Odiokosa out high as he brings Hillsman out for the moment. And now Eldridge. Tough shot. Missed it. Benny, defensive boards and the rebound. Brian Roberts switching dribbles and firing and airballed it. And Hillsman trying to save it, could not.
Brian Roberts got fouled on that play. His hand was interfered with during the release of the shot. I don't know if we've got a replay of that or not, but it was clearly, there was contact on his right hand.
Instead, it goes as a no call. Ball out of bounds to Illinois State. And in the second half, the Flyers are yet to score. Slack on a drop down to Odiokosa is in trouble on the baseline. And they'll swing it out to Richardson. There's that active and bouncy Anthony Slack. He calls for the ball and backs his man down. I'm impressed with Slack tonight.
Slack read the mismatch with Jimmy Benny. Illinois State rotated the ball to the right-hand side to expose that mismatch down low.
Slack with 6 points and 7 rebounds. Off the dribble, Marcus Johnson misfires. And Slack elevates to come up with a rebound. Flyers still scoreless in the second half.
Boy, Anthony Slack with 2 rebounds and 2 points in the last 2 possessions.
The little guy Richardson got into trouble and was able to get out of it. Odiokosa, he gets up to some nice screens out there with that big body. Talked about the foul or the foul that was not called. Let's see if you're right on the money.
Watch his right hand right there. Look, it's right on his forearm. Brian Roberts, when he misses a shot that badly, it's not because of his talent. It's because somebody interfered with the shot. That was a foul on his forearm.
Typical with the good shooters. If something like that goes awry with a shot, something must have happened. And it was evident there. A foul should have been called, but was not. 3 to shoot. All out of bounds and back the other way to Dayton. In the second half, just 4 points scored. That's it.
Well, strap yourself in, because that's the kind of night we're in for. Both these teams fighting for their postseason lives. Both these teams probably should have been NCAA teams if not for brand bias against the Missouri Valley Conference and the A-10. They're both here to prove a point.
What did Brian Gregory of Dayton say? You know, this has been a good 8-9 matchup in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. Instead, it's second round NIT. Odiakosa with his back to the basket and a kick out for 3. Missed by Johnson. Another rebound for Diener, but it's taken away. Here comes Warren, the jet to the basket, and as he hops to the hoop, he got fouled, and he will shoot twice when we come back. Everybody in this house is fired up. Quarterfinal State, you think of a fire and intensity, you think of Doug Collins, the all-time leading scorer with over 2,200 points, for which this court is named, Mark.
3-time All-American. He was considered to be the next Jerry West. On the cover of Sports Illustrated, a great Olympian, Doug Collins, who has carved out his success as a player, as a coach, as a broadcaster. Hall of Fame, Doug Collins, in my view.
Played in the early 70s here. No one here has forgotten that. And isn't it interesting that Tim Yankovic, in his first year, Jankovic's team played with that type of fire intensity, and it's so hard to score the ball against them. And that's why they win here. And in this second half, Dayton has yet to score a field goal.
Now, this Illinois State team, not considered to be a great rebounding team. Dayton considered to be a very good rebounding team, even by national standards. And Brian Gregory getting headaches right now as the Dayton Flyers are down 7 rebounds here early in the second half.
Warren able to get 1 of 2 for his first point of the night, and the first point of the second half for the University of Dayton Flyers. Second round action with the winner to face either Ohio State or California. And the Buckeyes are leading Cal in the second half from Columbus tonight. And the turnaround will be quick, 48 hours from now. Johnson with a swing to Eldridge. He has struggled shooting the ball in this NIT, 5 of 25 over 2 games.
Well, he's a guy that this Illinois State team winning in spite of his poor shooting, knocked off Utah State. But that's what defense gives you. It gives you a chance every night.
Val Eldridge just 4 of 17 in the win over the Aggies. The ESPN.com inside RPI. Mo Valley in the 8th spot, Atlantic 10 in the 7th. You think that's what did them in, even though each team had good RPIs for consideration for the tournament.
Look, there are 31 NCAA Division I conferences. You got the Atlantic 10 and the Missouri Valley in the number 7 and 8 positions. And I served on the mock selection committee back in Indianapolis. And after going through that process, I don't fault any of the tools, any of the processes. I do fault the brand bias on the part of committee members. There's no question that committee members slant toward the Power 6. All you gotta do is watch ESPN, you see the same thing.
The Jet with the blow by and basket for Dayton. First field goal of the second half, 1-point game, 32-31.
And these are 2 quality basketball teams that will finish in the top half of every major conference in the country, especially if Dayton has Chris Wright the entire season.
That one intended for Little, brought back the other way by Eldridge. Over to Boo Richardson. Richardson penetrated the basket for the 3 for Eldridge. That's an open look, and he missed it. And tonight he is 1 of 9.
Now, this is usually where Brian Roberts shows up and gives you a good look. He's matched up with Boo Richardson.
Here's Warren a drive to the hoop, and he missed it.
Well, it's probably not the shot that Brian Gregory wants.
Quick shot there by Richardson, and it remains 32-31. 7 combined scored points here in the second half. And Illinois State now from the arc is 2 of 14.
And you've got to think now, Brian Gregory settling his team. Certainly Brian Roberts is going to get a pick and a look right here. There it is.
And the look is a good one, and he drains it. Good call, partner.
Now, London Warren took an ill-advised shot, and Brian Gregory took over that possession, told his point guard to get out of the way, give it to Brian Roberts, let him make a play, and he did.
12 points now for Brian Roberts on all made threes. 34-32 Dayton. Odiakosa showing his left hand, missing a rebound. Marcus Johnson. And Dayton has turned the momentum over to its side. What's been the biggest thing defensively for the Flyers?
Well, I think for one thing inside, Kurt Hillsman's been very difficult to score over. And on the offensive side, Brian Roberts is dominating every possession now, which he should.
Hillsman on a handoff to Little, and 15 to shoot on the possession.
Here comes the high screen again for Brian Roberts, a double high.
Roberts lost the ball off his foot. It'll stay in their hands with 6 to shoot. Chris Wright coming back in the game. Once again, here's Sarah.
I got a chance to talk to the head trainer for Dayton, and he said that Chris Wright felt fantastic during halftime. He sat there, had a little bit of Gatorade, listened to coach, but he's doing very well, and he's ready to step back into this game for the second half.
In the first half, Sarah, Chris Wright played 4 minutes, picked up a couple of points, also had a rebound. It's just his presence again that makes such a difference. He also picked up 2 fouls, and I don't suppose that surprised his coach because he thought he might be a little bit over anxious when he got back to action.
Yeah, Chris Wright only knows one speed, and that's full speed forward. And when he gets the ball, expect an offensive charge possibly, because he's going to take it right to the rim.
What did Gregory tell us? Even if the Red Army was out there, I don't think it would have stopped Wright. He would have run right through them as well. Just excited to get back. Here's Johnson on a handoff to Binney, shooting off the dribble. Missed a shot. Follow-up is good.
Right on cue. Chris Wright was the best leaper, the best athlete. He just went up and got it.
This is an 8-0 run for the Flyers, who had gone 4 minutes without a point to start the second half. Sampe out to Rubin and Holloway. Eldridge has struggled mightily tonight for Illinois State as a foul is called on Dayton, and we have a timeout. One awards tonight and award just about everywhere else. A defense. Dayton nor Illinois State made the NCAA tournament, which I think caused a lot of people around these two campuses to say, why? Why not?
Well, certainly Dayton and Illinois State both had very good cases. Illinois State was hurt by the 30-point defeat versus Drake. Dayton was hurt by their 9-9 record after Chris Wright got hurt. It seemed as if Dayton was discounted. You know, they beat Louisville, they knocked off Pitt, they beat St. Joe's, buried them late in the season. But yet, for some reason, at times, the committee, the national media, all seems to get involved with one team like an Arizona State or a St. Joe's.
They already have a play-in game that's played, oddly enough, at the University of Dayton every year. That's prior to the beginning of the big day of action. First round Thursday tournament. Only 14 teams, by the way, have failed to reach the NCAA tournament that were in the RPI top 40. That, of course, includes Dayton and Illinois State. Can we have another round in our lifetime to perhaps make this a little easier?
Well, why not? I mean, then of course, the 125 and 126 teams are going to be complaining, but who cares about the 125 and 126? I do care about the number 31, 32, and 33 teams, however.
Well, it's a point made by Purdue coach Matt Painter. We've added so many Division I schools since the last expansion. It's time for us to expand the tournament in some way, shape, or form. 10-0 run for Dayton after trailing early in the second half by 4.
Well, and after being down on the boards by 7, Dayton has dominated the boards and nearly back to even in that category. In fact, it is even 25-25 now.
Drop down low to Sampe, the shot is blocked.
Chris Wright defensively with the rejection.
Here's Binney.
Watch out!
Backdoor. And free throws coming up. And on that subject, not being able to make the dance, perhaps Sarah can elaborate for us.
Dayton's Brian Gregory said, you know what, when we found out we didn't make it, we were disappointed, but I told my team there's two ways we can go with this. There's teams that get ticked off that they didn't get in and play their best basketball of the season, and there's those that get ticked off and hang their heads and play like they didn't deserve to be in the tournament. And I just told them, you've got one more chance to get up off the mat, because next time we aren't getting up. The season's over, so you got to go up there and show this country exactly what this team is made of.
And Tim Jankovic told us perhaps an even better story than that when he was at Vandy under Kevin Stallings' direction. He said there was no doubt that that program, that in 1 year in particular, it was going to make the NCAA tournament. Something strange happened in the SEC where Arkansas went on to win it. Big party was scheduled for Vandy, players, coaches, fans, and friends. And guess what? The name wasn't called to make the dance. It's like being invited to your prom, all dressed up, and your date doesn't show.
It's no fun.
After our game, Cornhuskers of Nebraska against the Ole Miss Rebels in Mississippi tonight. The MasterCard NIT second round on ESPNU. Next, Wayne Ballin and Darren Fishback will have the call. And we remind you to catch the 7th annual McDonald's Girls High School All-American game on ESPNU Wednesday night. The top high school basketball players in the country showcase the skills they'll be using in the college ranks. The McDonald's Girls High School All-American game on the U Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com.
You know, Jim, we documented the long-term effect of Chris Wright, the 9-9 record. The short-term, just in this game, Illinois State was ahead 32-30 until Chris Wright came in the game. And now, it's a 12-0 run.
And London Warren on the breakaway has 2 free throws coming up. And number 14 has made his presence out there known because of his speed.
Now, London Warren, Brian Gregory loves him because he brings such energy to the game. Between him and Boo Richardson, we've got 2 point guards who are going to lay it on the line all night long.
He's been labeled a Jacksonville Jet. 3 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and limited activity. This game, in early the parts of the second half, was 32-28 favor of Illinois State. Since then, a 13-0 run by Dayton.
Well, what a difference he makes psychologically for this basketball team. You could see it in their practices. They were so excited. He knocked down a jump shot on Saturday in their team workout, and the entire team just exploded because they knew he was back. They saw the elevation on his jump shot.
Illinois State, Mark, now has not scored in more than 7 minutes. Eldridge has had a really rough night shooting the ball for Illinois State. Let's see if he can get it going. Odiokosa will help him with a pick. Eldridge will shoot and miss badly. Fight for the ball, picked up by Sandoval. All Dayton right now with 9:15 left in the game.
Well, the difference really has been Brian Roberts has made shots, and Osiris Eldridge continues to struggle from the floor.
Here's Hillsman down low, puts the ball up and scores. He's had a quiet night tonight, but those points add to a lead that has now reached 11.
How did that ball go in?
I'm not sure.
It was spinning sideways like the globe.
The streak has reached 15 in a row. Warren going for yet another steal, couldn't come up with it. And Eldridge slashing the basket. He cannot find a way to score today. On the other end, right down the other way. Almost got his own rebound, and Eldridge trying to get up the court. Got tripped accidentally by Kurt Hillsman. There'll be a foul on him. Take a look at Dayton's previous basket.
Watch how this ball goes in the hole. The ball is completely covered. Look at it spinning sideways and swishes it. That's when you know things are going pretty doggone well for Kurt Hillsman and the Dayton Flyers.
Comes from a family of football players, 4 brothers who have played football, and this is a kid that defensively was matched up over the last couple of years against Aaron Gray of Pitt and Tyler Hansbrough of North Carolina, and held his own in both. And right now, Dayton, with all the momentum and an 11-point lead, and Illinois State has not scored in 7.5 minutes. So, if Eldridge isn't scoring tonight for Illinois State, who must?
Well, certainly Boo Richardson can make a difference for Tim Jankovic. You've got to also look down to Anthony Slack has been effective for Jankovic down low. And to finish that thought, Dima Odiokosa also has been productive in recent games.
Our venue tonight is the Redbird Arena in Norman, Illinois. Number 3 Dayton, number 2 seeded Illinois State. Jim, Mark, and Sarah running into the action, and Dayton with this charge in the second half, putting itself in position to face likely Ohio State, which has a huge lead on California in the second half. That game would be in Columbus if these leads hold up. Because this is the Ohio State bracket, the Buckeyes are the top seed.
Well, either team that wins this game, I am sure will compete very well in Columbus, Ohio against Ohio State. Be a great matchup. Of course, Thad Matta led Ohio State to the Final Four in the championship game last year with Greg Oden and company.
The shooting has just been horrendous for Illinois State in the second half. Now it's extended to the free throw line. The problem for Tim Jankovich's team is just reaching 43, which Dayton holds at this point, because scoring the ball, well, it's becoming almost impossible right now for the Birds.
Well, let's credit that Dayton Flyer defense. It has been stifling, especially here in the second half, as Dayton has not turned the ball over very often.
Too early for the Flyers to think about using some clock?
Well, they're going to use shot clock regardless, pretty much every possession, and the weapon that Dayton has is Brian Roberts all the time in a late shot clock situation.
Roberts right now running the baseline against Boo Richardson as we're down to 7. And on the drive to the basket, nobody picked up Little, and he jammed it. It's all Dayton here in the second half. Once trailing 32-28, 17-0 run.
Jim, the entire Illinois State defense was so focused on Brian Roberts, they lost all vision, and Charles Little was wide open.
It was almost like a decoy. Slack misses. And let's see if Dayton can add to this 17-0 streak. Robertson in the front court. Flyers are 7-20 away from the quarterfinals. Johnson rolls one up, and as he goes to the basket, a foul called. But anything the Flyers have done lately has worked, including the power dunk by Charles Little off the bench. 45-32 Flyers. 7:16 left in the game here on the U. Mark Adams to take us inside the play.
Let's take a look at why Charles Little was so open. Watch the defenders. Stop right there. You've got 4 defenders watching the ball, 1 defender watching Brian Roberts. And because of lost vision, Charles Little just steps down to the baseline and goes right up for the rim rattler. That's one of the first serious defensive mistakes we've seen for Illinois State tonight.
If you're Jankovich's team, how do you get back in this game and you can't score?
Well, I think for one thing, you've got to settle down offensively, try to get some touches inside. Remember, Illinois State is better off the dribble drive when they're attacking the basket in the paint. They get to the line, they manufacture points. When they settle for jump shots, they struggle.
Three-point shooting has been awful for Illinois State, just 2 of 15. Not been able to make it work with a home run ball. Eldridge able to save it, but the shot clock at 15. He tries to penetrate, and he'll pitch it to Don Johnson, who misses the 3. Little fights for the loose ball against Odiokosa and knocked it out of bounds. And so the ball stays on this end for Illinois State.
And that was better offense by Illinois State, able to get a little penetration in the paint, draw a defender, get a good look at the basket. That's more Redbird offense from Illinois State there. Boot, same thing, turns the corner. That's good offense.
Don Johnson with the drop off down low. Odiokosa, and the drought has ended. Well, you mentioned getting easy baskets. There was one of them. They'll need several more, though. Andre Sandoval handling the point for Dayton over to Marcus Johnson.
Illinois State and their entire defensive focus is to keep the ball out of Brian Roberts' hands.
A drop, by the way, for Illinois State. It reached 10.5 minutes before the made basket by Odiokosa, and now a Dayton turnover. Ohio State in command against Cal all night long, leading by 18 in the second half. A Buckeye win keeps them at home at Value City Arena Wednesday night against the winner of this game tonight.
So the road to New York City and Madison Square Garden looks like it will run through Columbus, Ohio, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, most coaches agree this has been a fine NIT tournament because the NCAA has taken over it. They have drafted seeds 1 through 8 for the various brackets, 4 brackets total. And so far, all 1 seeds have done pretty well.
Pretty good bracketing, huh?
Yes. First time around for the NCAA in command an NIT tournament. Well, the biggest problem in the past is that teams would win a first-round game, and the committee would wait to see which matchup they wanted for the second round. Teams wouldn't know until the last minute where they were going.
Well, this tournament has integrity now. It is seeded. It's not about money. It's about which teams are best and who deserves the home court.
Dyer picks up the foul for Dayton. Speaking of the NIT tournament, this is the 71st annual one. 22 of the 32-team field came in with 20 or more wins. 8 teams qualified after winning conference regular season championships, and all 31 games on the family of networks, including one that will follow tonight on ESPNU, and Ole Miss against Nebraska. Dayton by 11. Roberts backs out, and he hit the line. Over and back on Brian Roberts, so this is back-to-back Dayton turnovers.
Well, the official was certainly right on top of the play. Let's look if we can see Brian Roberts' right foot right there. It may have called that left heel possibly touching. The official was right on the play.
Pretty close. Eldridge looking to the basket, looking to shoot it. Missed again. Odiokosa to bury him out, though. Missed it. Tipped back by Eldridge. He missed it. 3 tries at the basket. Boy, this has been a nightmare for Osiris Eldridge. He cannot score from far away or close. Richardson goes for the steal. Ball still loose in the backcourt, picked up by Little.
Now, did he cross 10? Did he cross the half-court line? That could have been a 10-second count.
Well, and I think Brian Gregory, recognizing there could have been a call, instead called a timeout. Shot clock is down to 19. Nebraska will get another look. Well, that was wise by Gregory because this place was howling for some type of call.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if London Warren actually crossed the half-court line, because if he didn't, clearly it was a 10-second violation. The trap took place right around the half-court area. Let's watch London Warren. Does he get across the half-court line? Yes, he does.
And then the ball was poked away.
So no shot clock violation again. The official right on top of the play. Of course, this entire crowd went nuts over it. It appeared he came over the line. We were a little bit blocked off here by the official.
Dick Gregory's team maintains control under 5 minutes to go. And 19 on the possession clock, leading by 11. Well, Illinois State had the top billing for defense coming into the game, but it's the Flyers defense that could very well carry them to the quarterfinals.
Well, Brian Gregory, remember, he is a Tom Izzo assistant. This is a ball club that understands defense extremely well. They are also built on defense, the Dayton Flyers.
Flyers have limited Illinois State to 3 of 22 shooting in the second half as Richardson picks up the foul. That's his second. And that's team foul number 7, and so the Flyers can earn points from the free throw line. Gregory's had communication almost every day with Tom Izzo. As Michigan State, very impressive in the tournament so far. Moving on to the round of 16 against Memphis. And in fact, it was a few pointers from Gregory. That lopsided win over Pitt that probably helped Izzo against the Panthers earlier in the weekend.
Let's take a look at Brian Roberts and what a leader this young man is. This is why he was first team All-Atlantic 10. Got consideration for All-American as well. Look at that feathery touch from downtown Brian Roberts.
Roberts is a terrific free throw shooter at 85%. Call him the Toledo Rifle. The Rifleman has 4 made threes tonight for 14 points. Also has 6 rebounds, and that leads his team in that category as well. A lot of ground for Illinois State to make up, Mark, and not much time.
Yeah, that's the type of thing, though. You can't try to score 13 points in one possession. They do the right thing. I like what Illinois State's been doing the last 5 possessions. Everything's getting inside for the Redbirds.
And they found Odiokosa for a short drop in. Back to an 11-point deficit. Here comes Warren, able to elude Slack. Underneath to Wright, lays it in. Speed kills.
Well, and Chris Wright finishes with his left hand on the opposite side.
In this second half, Illinois State with 8 points.
It's a bad shot.
Slack tried to follow it up. He got fouled, and with 4:01 left, Anthony Slack will go to the free throw line. Warren picks up his 4th foul, but you cannot underestimate the play of this kid. He came off the bench and gave him that fast touch. That's been unmatched.
Well, I've also liked the work of Anthony Slack as he misses the free throw there. 6 points, 9 rebounds. Been a very active athlete. London Warren just changes the tempo of a game.
Well, Wright, as you know, is a freshman. Little is a junior. Warren is a sophomore. Marcus Johnson and Kurt Hilsman for the starting lineup, both sophomores. They'll miss Brian Roberts, that's a given. But they've got some great youth here.
Signed a great player in Josh Benson as well. Be a high flyer, high wire act.
There's Roberts on a little floater to the basket and the rebound to Slack. Slack has given no slack on the boards. He's done a great defensive job rebounding. And here's Dom Johnson to the hole. We're back to an 11-point game as we reach 3:35. Coming from the other way out, he tries to get a steal, and on this possession, a turnover. Just the 6th turnover of the night for Dayton. Well, can Illinois State come up with an improbable finish? Down to the Flyers, 16-1 at home this year, and a perfect 11-0 when holding opponents under 60 points. Defensively, Illinois State has had a strong game, but the better of the 2 defensive teams tonight is Dayton. Sarah's been listening in on the Redbirds huddle. What'd you find out, Sarah?
Well, Coach Jankovic has got plans, and part of that include putting heavy pressure as soon as Dayton crosses half court with those traps. But he said the key is going to be to push the ball, drive through the lane, get those easy buckets, and board.
Eldridge with a slice to the basket. It's a single-digit deficit game now at 9. And I wonder, too, if you think about challenging Dayton and putting him on the free throw line, Mark.
Well, Charles Little would be a guy that you would look to foul right away. I think Illinois State's going to rely on their pressure defense, try to get some turnovers and easy baskets like that.
Really got a turnover there, but it remains in the hands of the Flyers. With 24 to shoot. Ryan Roberts is the team's best free throw shooter at 85%. Marcus Johnson, who wears 32, shoots at 75%.
Boo Richardson just has one job, that's to deny Brian Roberts the basketball. Roberts could head up to the concession stand and Boo Richardson would follow him at this point.
Yeah. Here comes Wright, who, by the way, is also a good free throw shooter at 81%. So they've got all the right guys in there in case they get fouled to try to finish it off at the line.
Now, think about Chris Wright with the long layoff that he's had now. He's in there for crunch time. That's the amount of respect and confidence Brian Gregory has in Chris Wright.
Roberts in trouble, and Dayton just got a timeout.
And Brian Gregory is livid because the Dayton Flyers are catching the ball in trap zones. They're not keeping the ball in the middle of the court.
ESPN News coverage of college basketball's postseason continues next. Nebraska Cornhuskers, the Ole Miss Rebels from the campus of the University of Mississippi, the MasterCard. Now you failed to mention your terrific role in studio. What was that?
It was fun. Had a great time.
Looked like you were enjoying yourself.
It was a great honor.
5 to shoot. Important possession for Illinois State defensively. Roberts will shoot the 3. Missed it. Long rebound saved by Roberts. Out of bounds, Illinois State. And it looks like one last charge is available for the Redbirds. Illinois State shoots 38% from the arc for the season tonight. Jankovic's team has been held at 12%. Field goal shooting for the game is down as well. 14 percentage points below the average. 6 of 26 in the second half, and still has a chance to make a late run and perhaps get this thing tied up before we end.
Osiris Eldridge looks like a different player right now. He is in attack mode. Tim Jankovic, Sarah talked about it. He challenged his team to go to the basket. They're doing just that.
Here's Holloway out front. Had to give up his dribble. Shot the jumper and hit it. That's a big-time shot by Holloway. Now we're down to a 7-point game. Wright looking for Roberts. Ball broken up and knocked out of bounds. Slack goes into the out-of-bounds area to try to save it. And right now, the pressure seems to be bothering Dayton a little bit.
Illinois State has turned up their heat here in Normal, Illinois. They've got another run left in them.
Little is looking for Roberts. Roberts gives up his dribble back to Wright, and they split the D to Johnson. Good job of getting the ball across the court. Here's Roberts. No reason for Dayton to shoot.
But look where the ball's going. It's on trap areas along the sideline, along the half-court line.
It's picked up by Holloway. Basketeer makes it a 2-score game. Eldridge trying to hop to the hoop. Got it! A 12-4 run, and at one point Illinois State, almost given up for dead, is within 2 possessions at 49-44.
Now let's watch how the Dayton Flyers are putting the ball into trap situations for Illinois State. They're getting the ball off the traps, and they're making plays on the offensive end. Illinois State playing great defense, paying it off with great offense. Osiris Eldridge right there with the fadeaway. And because of the trapping defense, because of the areas where Dayton is putting the ball, Illinois State now back in this basketball game.
All right, Sarah, what do you have for us?
I want to remind you guys that the St. Louis game that Dayton played in the Atlantic 10 tournament, it was their opening game. They ended up pulling out a victory in overtime only by 1 point. St. Louis clawed their way back into that game because of the full court pressure that Dayton struggled with.
And the composure, Sarah, that Dayton showed earlier in this game has gone away for the moment. And Mark, you're right. The heat has been turned up. The crowd, all 9,000, roaring its approval, trying to force yet another turnover as Benny will throw it in unguarded. He's got Wright, and he gets it to him. 1:35 for the game. Long lead pass, caught deep in the corner and saved. And fortunately for Sandoval, smart enough to call a timeout.
And another trap area. Ball goes to the corner. That's an automatic double team. And you're not only double team with the players, but also the sideline and the baseline. Andre Sandoval had nowhere to go. Dayton breaks the pressure. Watch Chris Wright. He's going to bring it up the right-hand side, and he sees Sandoval go deep. He throws it right down the corner where 2 defenders are, and here comes the trap. And all Andre Sandoval can do is burn another timeout.
Well, Dayton hasn't had opportunities to look at the goal because of this pressure, and now they're going to have to think of how to try to score a basket because this lead may not hold up the way things have been happening lately for Illinois State. Illinois State has gone away from shooting the long ball, gone inside, penetrating, attacking the goal, and scoring.
Tim Jankovic, 5-6 minutes ago, challenged his team. Take the ball off the dribble into the paint. Make things happen. They are doing that on both ends of the court.
The winner goes to the quarterfinals and likely to Columbus, Ohio, Wednesday night. And we got a push-off, and that's going to be called on Holloway. Well, this place was ready to erupt. But the reason that turnover was created was because of the push. That means free throws. Dayton is 10 for 14 from the line, and to reiterate, Brian Roberts is the team's best free throw shooter at 85%. Hardly see Roberts come out of a game. He averages 35 minutes per.
Well, you can see how important he is to Brian Gregory's basketball team. I mean, to take care of this pressure, and it sounds simple but difficult to do because of the denial of Boo Richardson on Brian Roberts. But the solution, Jim, is give the ball to Brian Roberts in the middle of the court, spread the court with everybody else, let your best player make a play. Anything that's on the sideline or in the corners, that's a trap and going to be a turnover.
And if you double him, likely somebody's open and perhaps down low. Roberts 2 of 2 from the line tonight. Buckeyes have polished off Cal, so Ohio State, the 1 seed in its own bracket, will be home Wednesday night against the winner of this game. 2 big free throws for Brian Roberts. Well, what else would you expect from a veteran senior player like him?
He is a go-to guy, supreme for the Dayton Flyers. Bad shot.
Dyer left it short, rebound Little. 1:15 to go, and Dayton regaining some of its edge right here. Roberts not looking to shoot. Benny able to save for Johnson. And a foul call with 66 seconds left. A quick shot taken by Illinois State. And with a 7-point lead, Dayton can get closer to wrapping it up.
So Illinois State was so successful scoring off the bounce. And Tim Jankovic, I'm sure, did not particularly like that shot. Just took them out of their offensive flow. That's an example of trying to score 7 points in 1 possession. It's an impossibility.
Warren, a 52% shooter. 1-1, missed the first. Still hope for the Redbirds.
You still got to attack if you're Illinois State.
Aldridge instead shoots the 3 and knocks down the 3.
Drew Richardson draws the defender and sees Osiris Eldridge wide open. Boy, when Illinois State attacks, they are dangerous.
That is the only made 3 in the second half by Illinois State, but a large one in 11 attempts.
Look at Drew Richardson draw defenders because they all come up after him. That gives Osiris Eldridge a good look. London Warren a little bit late, rotation, and Osiris Eldridge starting to heat it up.
And Tim Jankovic trying to draw this game out as long as possible here. Eldridge is 4 of 17 tonight, the identical numbers he had against Utah State.
Well, if you're Tim Jankovic now, you're going full out, trapping pressure, deny Brian Roberts the ball, make somebody else in the red jersey make the important decisions. And for Brian Gregory, it's about keeping the ball in the middle of the court, not in the trap areas, and keeping the ball in that man's hands as much as humanly possible.
And a tie-up would favor Illinois State. Foul situation. If the Redbirds have to commit another one, it's 2 shots, a double bonus for Dayton. Sandoval runs the sidelines and hands it back, which you can do. And in the front court comes Sandoval against the double team. Out to Wright, and Wright is mobbed inside, and so Chris Wright will step to the free throw line with 50 seconds to go. But at least Roberts, as far as Illinois State is concerned, is not shooting the free throws.
Now, but the Dayton Flyers decided not to be content with just breaking the press. They wanted to score off of Tim Jankovic's press. And now all this time off for this freshman, how will this affect his free throw stroke?
Which, by the way, has been very good, at least tonight, 4 of 4. 2 free throws made would not kill Illinois State, but would certainly help Dayton.
A lot of pressure here. Wow.
I'd say the future looks pretty good for Dayton, even with the loss of Brian Roberts.
Now, this kid has such a great attitude, such a tremendous work ethic. I mean, there's a reason why I put him in the top 6 freshmen in the country. It's because he's talented and he has a work ethic second to none. He will leave this program maybe at the level of Don May, who in my opinion was the greatest ever to play at the University of Dayton.
He missed the second one, and here comes Aldridge looking to shoot a long 3. Not this time. Ball still loose up on the boards, and leaping to get the rebound is Marcus Johnson, and we will go to the other end for 2 more free throws. Now this one was drawing rain.
See if this ball hits the top of the backboard. Sure did. Almost comes down and goes in.
Marcus Johnson with 2 free throws. He is a 75% shooter. Started St. Vincent St. Mary's in Ohio. And LeBron James made the high school famous. Gets the first free throw for the night. Dayton is 14 of 20 from the line. You can tell by the faces, this is just not another tournament. I mean, this is a big deal. Even if you didn't make the NCAA.
Hey, they're all over that right now. They were over that about a half an hour after it was announced. They were focused on being NIT champions. Dayton hasn't won it since 1968.
Eldridge will go to the hole, throw up a circus shot, and Slack trying to follow. Got fouled with 30 seconds to go, and 2 more free throws for Anthony Slack, who, by the way, has been at the line 6 times tonight and has made just 2. Well, the poor shooting for Illinois State is extended from the floor to the line, while Dayton is hit 15 of 21 and has knocked down some large ones here in the last couple of minutes.
I remember for a long stretch, Illinois State kind of settled for the jump shot, really affected their ability to get to the line. You know, Jim, let's also remind everybody that Illinois State was picked for either 8th or 9th, depending on which poll you looked at in the Missouri Valley Conference. I mean, Tim Jankovich could have easily been the conference coach of the year. Of course, Keno Davis was. And Drake, who was picked for 9th and ended up winning the Missouri Valley.
Slack able to get 1 free throw, but the deficit is 6 in just 30 seconds to play.
And now you can afford to trap in the front court area, but once the ball crosses that half-court line, then you've got to go for the foul, but you go for the trap and steal at this end.
Against that right traveled, he did not. Roberts gets in the front court to Johnson. Johnson gets loosened before he can jam it. He got a lot of contact, and Brian Gregory wanted more than just a foul, but I think we're just going to be in a 2-shot situation.
Well, Dayton looking deep now is that Illinois State press only has 1 option, and that's to cheat up and try to get a steal. 2 pretty good athletes going up right there. Osiris Eldridge looking to get up. Marcus Johnson. Eldridge definitely went for the ball there.
Johnson, considered a shutdown defender, has played his role tonight defensively for the Flyers.
Johnson also the 2nd leading rebounder on this team after Chris Wright went down with his injury. Pound for pound, inch for inch, Marcus Johnson, one of the better rebounders in the country. Played with some guy named LeBron James.
Yeah.
Pretty good rebounder too. In high school at Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's.
Johnson hasn't missed a free throw tonight. Until I said something. 20 seconds left in the game. Here comes Dom Johnson. Lost the ball for the moment. And it gets tied up. That'll keep the ball on this side. But now we're down to 16.7 seconds left. And Illinois State looking at a miracle to try to pull this off.
Well, and Tim Jankovich, what a great coaching job he's done over this last 10 minutes of this game. His team a little bit down, a little bit questioning themselves, but with his positive actions, his positive thoughts, his positive words, he delivered this team to a comeback.
25 wins in his first season on this campus. A very deep 3 by Eldridge. Misses. Rubin able to save it to Richardson. He misses the 3. We're under 10 seconds left in the game. Down to 5. Dayton's going to go on the road and win a big one. Flyers 55, Redbirds 48, and in a place where Illinois State rarely loses, Dayton pulls off a huge win tonight.
Well, Brian Roberts will certainly be noticed as the player of the game, but Chris Wright makes the biggest difference coming off the bench.
So moving on to the quarterfinals, Dayton against Ohio State. For Mark Adams, Sarah Kustok, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Jim Barber. Coming up next on the U, more NIT presented by MasterCard. Nebraska against Mississippi. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com. Once again, our final score, the Flyers 55, the Redbirds 48. Good night for Illinois State. Let's join Dwayne Vallon and Damian Fishback from Ole Miss.